Welcome to today's Zentangle session where we're going to continue our Inktober 25 journey with the Day 5 Tangle, which is called Star Rite. Let's jump right in. And just so you know, Gayle's with me here today.
Hello.
All right, let's get started. So as I said, today's Tangle pattern is Star Rite, and it is a... you could think of it as a star, you could think of it as a starfish, you could think of it as a floral or flower pattern, but whatever you do with it, let's just have some fun with it. Now on mine, as I look at my overall composition, I want to start to move a few things over into this area. This I want to reserve some of these smaller spaces for other ideas, but down here I'm going to put my Star Rite right about here. So let's do that. We'll take a little zoom in. And the way we're going to draw this is really simple. So pick your spot and think of where the center of it is. So allow yourself the room for the leaves or the arms of the starfish or the points of the star, or whatever you want to think of it. And what we're going to do is draw an orb here. And I'm going to make mine where that's roughly 1/4 of an inch in diameter, just to give you some idea here. If you look at the cap of my pen, it's about the same width as that. And now we're going to do a little, what I call the stickman part of it. We're going to draw 5 little lines. So let's say this is the guy's neck. Man, does he have a long neck. And then we're going to do an arm, and another arm, and 2 legs. And that's just how I like to think of that. But once we've drawn that, now we want to draw the outside of the petal. But we want to not come way down like you normally would on a flower or floral arrangement. You want to kind of stay high and meet there in the middle so that you have some width to these individual petals, if you will. So we're going to kind of go like this and just follow a natural curvature and connect those points. So we're just creating a nice wide petal that'll give us some room for drawing our enhancements and so on. About like that. Looks like I got a little wonky over here, but I'm going to show you how we can correct that. Let's start with that then. So the thing I want to do on the outside, I'm going to bring this down like that to make it better, because we're going to fill all this in. And you'll see that that's not a problem. So now, let's start here though. Let's take our middle piece, these extensions that we drew, and aura that, but come to a point out at the end. So let's do that with all of these. Just make an aura line and come down to a point at the end. So now we've got that. So now I'll show you why I didn't mind doing this here. So now we're going to aura the outer edge and go right down. Once we get to this centerpiece, we're going to go right down like that. So I'll be able to ink that in, and that whole process there will be disguised. So we'll do this here again. We get to the center and we come down. I'm sorry for all the flopping around here. It's hard to do this and keep it under the camera. And so we're going from that tip, we're going back, oraing this back to the corner, and then kind of down so that we're creating these little segments or sections in that leaf. Connecting everything to the center there as well. All right, so now that we've got all that done, there's two ways we can do what I'm going to show you. We can ink these all in, which is what we're going to do, and you could ink all the way up past the corner, past this intersection, if you will, on each of these plants, and then stop, leave a little gap, and carry on from there down to the point. And the reason if we do that and follow it in a pattern across here, it's going to create a natural looking highlight or reflection that when we do our shading will just complement that whole process. So we want to create a little even band of these things across. So again, if I go here, I would go up about to that same area and stop. And then continue on here to ink that in. We'll do the same thing on this last one, on this third part. I'm going to fix my centerpiece here real quickly, though. Give it some weight there. All right, so getting up to there. And depending on the exact angles that you drew your shapes, you might find it difficult to perfectly align these little white gaps. If that's the case, the other way you could do it is you could ink the entire thing in and then just use a gel pen to create a series of these 3 little white spots in the precise spot that you want to. So either way, if you don't have a gel pen, then this way I'm showing here would probably be the best. If you do have a gel pen, then you could do it that other way. And the idea, of course, is to try to do it as close to that curve, that higher part of the curve, if you want to think of it that way, because that's where an actual reflection would take place, and it will just complement the shape of your petals more naturally. And as we ink, I'm going to kind of shut my mouth here for a little bit just because you don't need to hear me talk constantly, but that gives us an opportunity for a few moments of quiet drawing. All right, once we've got that completed, our inking process, let's also draw an aura around the entire outside, kind of close, but just let's create that white unifying band around the entire shape. And to quote the Big Lebowski about his rug, it kind of ties the whole thing together. Well, I guess that wasn't a quote, it was a paraphrase, because he said the rug ties the room together. I'm saying this aura ties our tangle together. All right. So there we have at least one version of the Star Rite pattern. Now you could create any number of endless ornate things using that same basic shape, starting with the center, drawing what I called the little stickman figure, and then creating the petals. You could fill them with other tangles. You could create different designs within them. It's endless. It really is endless. But since I've only got spot for one of these tangles in my particular drawing here, I'm going to do this one that adds some boldness and drama to my composition. So now we want to look at the shading process. So we're going to take our pencils and add a little bit of graphite into each corner, so to speak, of these areas. Now once that is done, we can blend this, and the idea now will be to blend it outward, but to stop just short of these white areas so that the whitest part of our shading is also in that same area, and it will really help create a nice shape and form with a natural or effectively natural highlight kind of built in. So as it gets up to that area, that's where you want to completely stop the blending. And I know that's probably hard to see. Again, as I've done before, I'll move my document here, my my paper once I've done this a little bit so you can see how this looks without the glare of the light. One last thing we can do here in terms of our shading is we can add a little, what I call the smiley face effect. Just add a tiny bit of graphite, like a little smiley mouth on one part of the center orb. And then as you blend that, it will help that to have a little sense of roundness to it. And it simultaneously gives it some value with the shading. All right, so let's take a look here at an angle. You can see that without the glare of the lights, it just looks much better. It has a more convincing effect to that shading, creating those light and dark spots. So today's session was a little bit shorter than some because we only made one version, or I chose to make only one version of the Star Rite pattern. That's not because of any problem with the pattern. It would have been great fun to fill this whole area with that. But again, we want to be conscious of having enough room to fill the page properly with all 31 days worth of tangles. So if we get toward the end and we find some spaces available, we can always add additional tangle patterns or fillers or even enhancements and embellishments. So I'm not worried about that. I just want to be sure we save room. So we got this nice little star down there that's going to add some contrast and composition to our composition. So Gayle, how did yours turn out?
Fine, but it's a little bit bigger than yours.
Well, that's all right. It's not that much
I'm
bigger.
not going to squeeze all 31 in
No,
if I do that.
No, you did fine. And I kind of like how you've got it tucked underneath there just a little bit. It adds some more depth and dimension to your overall composition. So I think that's great. It looks like the style you chose the same style that I did.
Yep.
And yeah, so you just drew larger stem or larger pieces there on your stick man,
Yeah, it kind of accidentally happened that way, so I just had to go with it.
That's all right. No harm done at all. Here, we'll zoom out, or actually, I'm already zoomed out. We'll see if we can get both of these on there at the same time. There we go. Just so you can kind of see the differences. Gayle's here on top. But very similar effect. Well, Gayle, it's great fun as always drawing with you, and it was wonderful having all of you out there join us today as well. I hope that you're continuing to have fun in this Inktober process, and we look forward to seeing everyone again very soon. Until then, take care. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.